Hey there, nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are proud to present our very first episode of From Hell. This is our series of battle reports that's dedicated to Snarling Badger's brand new demonic combat skirmish game, Reign in Hell. And this is battle report number 1. It is a Crystal Tower scenario that is fought between Lords of Hell as well as Brokers, 2 of the 6 different philosophies that you can choose for your own cabal in this game, Reign in Hell. In this battle report, Big Puka will be fighting against me. Big Puka is bringing in the Stygian Legion, a Lords of Hell cabal, and I'll be playing the Ethereal Bank of Vykos, my Brokers cabal. Now, in case you guys are not aware, Vince Venturella as well as Adam Loper of YouTube's Tabletop Minions as well as Warhammer Weekly have created a independent miniatures game called Reign in Hell. Now, the cool thing about this product is that it is an agnostics miniatures game, which means that you can use any miniature that you want in order to play this game. The rule systems are available for purchase. You can either get a hard copy of the book or download a digital copy. You can go to their websites and their YouTube channels for further details on this. So my gaming group and I took a look at the rules. We thought it was really interesting, and we thought it was really awesome that our fellow YouTubers actually helped create this game, and we decided to give it a go with our campaign system. So we'll be uploading these From Hell battle reports every single Wednesday for the next couple of weeks, so that way we can go through our very first campaign. And we have a different warband dedicated to each of the different philosophies. So we're going to play some background music real quick. As the music is playing, we'll show you photos of both cabals as well as their rosters. If you want to see exactly what we're bringing for this one, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Alright, so the scenario for this one is called Crystal Towers. Pretty much how it works is that players set up their cabals in opposite corners of the table within a 6x6 inch deployment zone. There are 4 objectives that are scattered throughout the battlefield, and these are Crystal Towers. Now, each Crystal Tower holds D6 souls, and to harvest a soul, a demon must control the objective. To do this, you must have more demons within 3 inches of the objective than your opponent, and you also have 1 demon harvest a soul instead of attack. The max amount of souls you can take from each Crystal Tower, though, is only 1 soul per turn. Victory condition. The game lasts 5 turns. The winner is the cabal with the most souls in the end, and if a cabal, of course, retreats, it loses, and whatever leftover souls are on the battlefield, the winning cabal claims those. Now, rewards in this one is called Soul Energy. It says at the end of the game, each cabal may add a number of souls equal to the souls harvested, and if the game ends due to a retreat, the last cabal remaining gains all the souls that are not harvested. So with the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about the battle plan real quick. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, we are actually playing on a Warcry mat, and the reason why is because in this game, the ideal battlefield size is 22 inches by 30 inches, which is the most typical table size for games like Warcry as well as Kill Team. So because of that, since it's a miniatures agnostic game, and since Warcry has a very demonic, hellish landscape to it, I decided to use my Warcry terrain in order to do this series. So as you can see, we actually have 4 Crystal Towers scattered throughout the battlefield, represented by those little tokens right there in the middle of the battlefield. Each one of them will be worth D6 souls. We'll roll for that when the actual turn number 1 starts. And as you can see, we are deployed on opposite corners. I'm deployed on the near left-hand corner. That is where my warband is located at, while Big Puka is located on the top right-hand corner. Now, to be honest with you guys, I do have my work cut out for me on this one. My Broker's warband is not really designed for combat. Our philosophy is more about gathering and garnering souls, which are great because souls can be used to purchase more demons and also to upgrade your forces. So because of that, that's how my cabal is pretty much set up. I do have a lot of fighters in my units, but in terms of speed, my my cabal is actually very slow moving cabal. Pretty much have to work in tandem with different units and things. Pretty much my plan is to focus on the 2 center Crystal Towers. My plan is to go for the one in the center, then the bottom left hand corner, as well as the one in the top right hand corner, and try to build a quasi defensive rig around those Crystal Towers, because I know Big Puka is going to take the offense on this one because his Lords of Hell cabal is designed for close combat. So my plan is to basically set up advantageous defenses, defeat him through some coordinated attacks, and hope for overwhelm him and destroy him at the same time. Now, as for my buddy Big Puka, his plan is pretty simple. We talked about this after the game. His plan is just to go across the battlefield as quick as he can, claim as many crystal towers as he possibly can, and hopefully defeat me in single combat. So with the battle plan over, let's go and talk about deployment real quick. So first of all, let's go talk about deployment real quick. The Ethereal Bank of Vykos. So in the back left-hand corner, that is my leader demon. His name is Duke Sirac. He is a, basically he's got the broker's philosophy. He's got Rich in Soul as well as Master Manipulator, as well, because he's a schemer. He's also got Unyielding Essence, giving him 2 up to his life, as well as Regenerating Soul, which means that he regenerates a life every turn as well. And he's also equipped with Infernal Armor, which means he takes 1 less damage. So this guy is kitted out to kind of survive and to like dodge and weave most attacks. Pretty much evade my opponent and then, you know, attack when it's most advantageous. Next on the left-hand side, that is Cloudneck. He is a devout demon. He is a tally man. He's got the Balance the Scales ability, which basically allows him to basically garner more souls, as well as his tax mechanic, which means I can also gain souls if my opponent also gains them as well, which is actually kind of nice. Now, up in the front there, represented by that direwolf, is my Mephet demon. His name is Occam. Right behind him on the left-hand side, that is Clistharet, who is my lesser demon, who's a corpulent demon. On the right-hand side, represented by that owlbear creature, that is Bakaud. He is my Slaughter Fiend. And the center in the middle there, that is my tentacle demon Surgat. On the top bottom right hand side, a little zombie werewolf looking thing, that is my armored demon named Morale. And that pretty much makes up my deployment for this one. Alright, moving on to the other side of the battlefield with the Stygian Legion. This is played by my friend Big Puka. This is his Lords of Hell cabal. In the back right-hand corner, that is Abaddon. He is a leader demon. He's also a warrior. He's got Unyielding Essence, as well as Soul Drinker, as well as Imperious Nature as well. Right next to him on the right-hand side, that is Skulltaker. He's a devout demon. He's a Lord of the Pit. He's got the Fly special rule, as well as the Worthy Sacrifice and Righteousness game mechanics. In the center, that is Skull Smasher. He is a lesser demon who is a Tentacle Beast. And right next on the left-hand side, that is a huge demon called Abadiel. He's an armored demon with scaly skin. Up in the front, we got 2 Slaughter Fiends. We have Sanguine as well as Skinner, and they both have Paragons of Slaughter. In the middle front there, we have another demon who is a, his name is Shrubbery, is his name. There we go. My buddy Big Puka picked these names out of a book. These basically a spine demon, and finally in the bottom right hand corner we have Cobal, who is a lesser demon who is a Mephet. And that pretty much makes up the plan for this one. So deployment over with, we basically go directly to turn number 1, and my friends and I roll off all of our d12s for each of our demons to figure out our initiative. So that takes directly to the top at turn number 1 for this one. Now, in case you're wondering how initiative works in this game, pretty much what you do is you roll a d12 for each of the different fighters that are in your cabal, and your opponent does exactly the same thing. And basically what you do is you activate your fighters in descending order. So whatever values you get from your d12 rolls, that pretty much determines your ranking, so it's always random every single turn. So in this case, for turn number 1, I got 2 12s, an 8, a 7, a 6, a 3, as well as a 1, and my buddy Big Puka, he got a 12, an 11, a 10, and 2 9s, a 5, and then 2 2s. And so we will be activating our fighters in descending order. So the first thing I do, of course, is that I send up my Mephet. Occam, he basically moves up his full moon allowance directly towards the very first of the crystal towers, and it's revealed that that crystal tower actually has 2 souls on it. And at the same time, I also send up my lesser demon, my corpulent demon Clistharet. Basically, he just moves up forward and climbs to the top of the tower there. And the reason why is because he only has movement 4, so he's very, very slow. But he has 15 life, so basically, and he also regenerates 2 life every turn when I activate him. And so basically, he's kind of like a tar pit kind of tanky unit, while my Mephet is more of a fast mover to secure objectives. So for my friend Big Puka's next activation, he then activates Cobal, his Mephet demon, who moves up to secure another crystal tower that has 4 souls on that as well. And I forgot to mention, because both of our demons control both of those crystal towers, they both spend a turn attacking him in order to gain a soul for both of us. Up next, from the next activation, Big Puka then activates Shabriri, his spine demon, who moves up his maximum allowance, skirting on the right-hand side of the battlefield. And he has multiple activations because the values you roll for his d12. He then activates Skull Smasher, his tentacle beast, who moves up his maximum movement allowance of 8 inches directly towards the center, followed closely by his armored demon, Abdiel. For my next activation, then activate my tentacle beast, Surgat, and he actually moves up his maximum allowance of 8 inches directly up the left-hand side. I'm setting up forts so that way he can secure the other crystal tower that's located on the top half of the battlefield. Meanwhile, the Slaughter Fiend Skinner from the Stygian Legion, he also moves up as well in order to give some backup to Shabriri, his spine demon. And then for my next activations, I then send up my Slaughter Fiend Vykos. He basically takes the point on this one, followed closely by my Armored Demon Morale, who's falling right behind him as well. And unfortunately for me, Morale is actually kind of slow moving as well. He's moving 5, while Vykos is actually moving 5. So like I said, my Warband is actually kind of slow moving in most cases, while the Lords of Hell are actually very, very quick. For Big Puka's next activation, he then activates Sanguine, which is one of his slaughter fiends, who actually moves up right behind Skull Smasher to lend some support. I then activate my leader, Duke Serac. He basically moves over the right-hand side towards that rubble. And the reason why I'm sending him that way is because, like I said before, I'm going to try to set up a defensive position around my objectives. And so I'm sending my leader to the right-hand side to kind of protect that approach. Meanwhile, Big Puka then activates Abaddon as well as Skull Taker, his leader demon, as well as his Lord of the Pit. And both those guys move up their maximum allowance, falling up right behind Skinner, getting ready to launch what looks like an assault on my right-hand flank. And then lastly, I activate Cloud Neck, which is my Devout Demon, who's my Tally Man. He moves up his movement maximum allowance of 4 inches forward as well. Like I said, my Cabal is actually very, very slow moving. And I do keep on apologizing. I keep on saying words like warbands and kill teams. I do apologize for that. These are a totally different game. These warbands are known as Cabals, is what they are called. So I do apologize for any mistake on that one. And as you can see, that pretty much ends turn number 1 on this one. So as you can see, not very much action taking place right now. So far, we're just kind of moving across the battlefield as quick as we can in order to secure objectives. As you can see, I'm slowly moving forward towards the center and slightly to the right, so that way I can set up my defensive position to protect my objectives. Meanwhile, as you can see, my friend Big Puka is taking the offense. He's kind of sweeping down the bottom right, looking like he's going to target my right-hand flank, heading for that value, that crystal tower there on the right-hand side that's worth 1 soul. But as you can see, he's starting to hit his hard-hitting units directly in the center where that crystal tower that holds 4 souls, so that way you can defend that as well. So with the end of turn number 1, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and we once again roll our initiative dice to see which of us will be going first. So that takes directly to the top of turn number 2, and for my activation dice, I got a 12, a 6, 2 5s, a 4, and a 1. Meanwhile, my opponent, he basically rolled a 9, a 7, 2 6s, 3 5s, as well as a 2. So because I do have the first activation, but for the middle part of it, though, he's pretty much dominating it because he's got multiple activations. So the first thing I do, of course, I activate my Mephet Akam. He basically attacks the Crystal Tower, absorbing another soul from my warband. And as you can see in this photo, my friend Big Puka does exactly the same thing, activating Shabriri, his spine demon, who moves up his maximum allowance towards the first crystal tower and attacks it, claiming the very last soul that was located in that crystal tower for his Cabal as well. Now, while that's occurring, of course, my buddy Big Puka then gets to go next. He activates his Mephet Cabal, who actually leaves the initial crystal tower that he was guarding earlier, moves to the crystal tower that's located on the very top of the battlefield. And he also does attack on that one as well. And the reason why is because that crystal tower also had 1 soul on it as well. He attacks it and absorbs that soul for his Cabal as well. So for my next activation, then activate Vykos, who's my Slaughter Fiend. He actually moves up in order to secure that crystal tower that's located in my half of the battlefield. At the same time, Big Puka then activates both Sanguine as well as Skull Smasher. Skull Smasher moves up in order to secure that crystal tower right there in the middle of his deployment zone. Also has him attack it as well, netting himself an additional soul for his Cabal. And as you can see, Sanguine, the Slaughter Fiend, he also moves up directly towards those stairways in order to start defending that very particular objective right there in the middle of the battlefield. So with that, I then activate my Tentacle Beast Sergat, and I get first blood ever in our campaign for Reign in Hell. I basically send my demon and charge him forward directly into Cobal, the Mephet. And the reason why I do this is because when I charge forward, I get additional combat score for my combat attacks when I go against the Mephet. And the cool thing about the Tentacle Beast is that the Tentacle Beast has what's called grappling arms, which basically slows down your opponents by 3 inches in their movement characteristic, as well as number 1 for their combat score as well, because what's represented as tentacles are kind of wrapping around you and kind of stopping it for the most part. That really helps me out in the combat phase. In the end, I was able to put 4 wounds directly onto Cobal as well, which is pretty bad because Mephets, they're actually designed to be very quick and fast moving, but they don't have very much life. They only have 7 points of life on them as well. So that part was absolutely fantastic. Plus their combat score isn't very good either. They only have a combat score of 3. But that's because Mephets are supposed to be used as kind of like scouting units in your Cabals. So now to be outdone, my buddy Big Puka then activates the Skinner, which is his Slaughter Fiend, moving and move up directly to the right-hand side of the battlefield, continuing, it looks like, his assault on my right-hand flank. I then activate my big boy Clislarith, who's my corpulent demon. He's just a big ball of fat and blobby slime, and he moves forward his maximum movement allowance of 4 inches, going along the top of the ruins. So the next couple of activation actually goes to my buddy Big Puka, and as you can see, he starts reinforcing the center now as well. He brings up his Armor Demon Abdiel to move up right behind the Crystal Tower, so that way he can garrison and protect that objective. At the same time, his Lord of the Pit Skull Taker moves up 8 inches, flying over directly right next to Skull Taker, and it looks like what's happening is that my buddy Big Puka is assembling his Cabal in the middle, so that way he can push forward and take the offense. For my next couple activations, I activate Clown Neck, my Tallyman, as well as Morale, my Armor Demon, and both those guys move up their maximum allowance, training directly towards the ruin, so that way they can lend some support to my Mephet Demon Alchem, as well as my Slaughter Fiend Bakaud. And for the very last activation for the Stygian Legion, as you can see here, Abaddon, the Leader Demon, he moves up his maximum allowance directly towards the center as well. Looks like Big Puka is kind of assembling his forces in the middle, so that way he can push through an assault. And then finally, for my last activation, activate Dude Cyrac, who's my leader demon, and he, as you can see there, moves his maximum lumen allowance across the fence and right next to my Mephet Demon Alchem, so that I can lend him some support as well. And that pretty much makes up the turn for this one. So with that, that takes directly to the end of turn number 2. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield, and as you can see, basically we're both slowly moving towards each other, towards the center. And the reason why is because the last 2 crystal towers are located in the middle of the battlefield. Unfortunately for me, Big Puka though has been getting the lead on collecting souls on the battlefield, and that's because he's secured that one center crystal tower on the far right hand side. It has 3 more soul points, while I only have the 1 left in the middle. However, what I'm hoping to do, like I said before, is to create a defensive position, because I know Big Puka is going to take the offense on this one, and hopefully by using coordinated attacks I can just wheel down his forces and defeat him that way, basically killing the rest of his cabals and just winning the battle by default. So at the end of turn number 2, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and once again Big Puka and I roll off all of our d12s to figure out our activation orders. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 3, and for my d12 I rolled a 10, an 8, a 7, as well as 2 5s and 2 2s. However, Big Puka though, he rolls 2 12s, 2 8s, a 4, a 3, and then 2 1s. So because of that, he gets the initiative on this one. So the first thing he does, of course, is that he decides to send in his Lord of the Pit Skull Taker. Skull Taker charges directly into my general, which is Lord Cyrac. Now, unfortunately for Big Puka though, what I have is a thing called Master Manipulator, which means that before I actually get attacked, I could actually move my opponent move my leader out of harm's way, and it's one of his abilities that he has as being a master manipulator with his schemer type that I chose for my leader. So as you can see, I basically got that ability off, and Duke Cyrac moves 8 inches to the left hand side, getting safely away from Skull Taker, which is absolutely fantastic. However, what was not so fantastic though is that he decides to attack against my Mephet Demon Alchem, and the reason why is because he's well within range, managed to put 4 wounds directly onto Mephet, so that part is actually really horrible. So then for his next activation, he then sends in his Lesser Demon, his Tentacle Beast, Skull Smasher. That guy goes charging directly into my Mephet. Alchem manages to finish him off in close combat as well, and also puts him right next to the objective marker. And it's actually kind of bad, and the reason why is because everything within an inch of him actually suffers debuffs to their combat score. They lose -1 to their combat score, as well as -3 to their movement value as well. So that part's kind of sad. And as you can see here in this photo, my Mephet Demon Alchem does get slain in this battle. So because he will need to roll up on the soul loss injury table to see exactly what happens to him at the end of the battle report. And at the same time, he also nets himself a soul point for the very first one, his very first soul die, which is a 3. And if in case you're not aware, what soul dice, how it works in this game is that if you want to, you can actually substitute one of your die rolls with a soul die if you have. In this case, it was a 3, so if he needed to actually have a 3 on a critical roll, he could actually switch that out and use that. And of course, if he doesn't use any of his soul dice, those actually get you 6 souls at the end of the scenario, which you can then use to purchase new fighters as well as upgrades for your Cabal. So not to be outdone, I then activate my Tentacle Beast Sergat, who then decides to do a focus attack directly into Cobalt, which is his Mephet Demon, which gives him +1 to his combat resolution as well, which is great because it also, with his tentacled arms, grappling arms ability, also lowers the combat score of that Mephet Demon by 1 as well. And just like that, I also slay that demon too, which is absolutely fantastic, and he will need to roll up on the Soul Loss tarp to see exactly what happens to that demon. So the best part about that is not only do I manage to get a soul dice for that one, because I am a broker, I have what's called Tip the Scales, which means that every single time I gain a soul dice, I can roll a d6, and if I roll a 5 up, that means I gain one additional soul dice. So as you can see in this one, I got 2 soul dice, represented by the orange die. I got 1 3 as well as 1 6, and also because of my tax ability from my Tallyman, I also increased my tax score by 1, which is absolutely fantastic. So for next activation, I activate Vykos, which is my Slaughter Fiend, and basically I have him unleash his attacks directly into Skull Smasher. Now traditionally, because I was using the Paragon of Slaughter ability, raising my combat score by 2, making me combat 8 rather, but because of the grappling arms, it does drop me down to combat 7. In the end, I was able to put 4 wounds directly onto Skull Smasher, so that's at least fantastic, and the reason why is because Tentacle Beasts have 9 life, and he's almost halfway dead. So then my friend Big Puka then activates Sanguine, his Slaughter Fiend, who basically charges directly into Surgat, my Tentacle Beast as well. He also gets an additional combat score because he actually charges in forward, and not to mention that guy also has a combat score of 6, bringing up to 7 as well. To make matters worse, Surgat's combat score is only 4, which means my opponent only needs a 2-up in order to hit me. And as you can see in this photo, I managed to put 4 wounds directly on my Tentacle Beast, so that part was kind of rough. Luckily for me, though, my grappling arms did make it a little bit more difficult for my opponent to wound me, but still, Slaughter Fiends are actually kitted out to kill, while Surgats are made for debuffing, so not much is not looking really good for my Tentacle Beast. So now to be outdone, I send in Clisteret, my lesser demon, who's a corpulent demon. He charges directly into Skull Smasher. As you can see in this one, I did manage to put 2 more wounds on him when it's all said and done, which is kind of nice. However, it's not as impressive as I thought I would have been. And the reason why is because corpulent demons are actually really made for combat too much. They only have movement 4, makes them really, really slow. Their combat score is only a 4, which means that my combat score dropped to a 3 due to the grappling arms ability, which means actually I roll 4 up in order to hit this guy. So that part was actually kind of sad. I'm starting to get the idea that corpulent demons are actually meant for holding objectives, which is great because they have 15 life and they also regenerate 2 life every single turn they get activated. So good thing I put him directly next to that Crystal Tower objective. I then activate my Armored Demon Morale, who charges directly into Skull Taker, and when it was all said and done, I was only put 1 wound on that guy. It was really, really embarrassing. But then again, Armored Demons are actually possibly playing more defensively than offensively, and my Cabal is kind of designed to be more defensive rather than offensive, and I'm starting to realize that I might have made a mistake doing that, especially since I'm taking on a purely offensive Lords of Hell Cabal. So for Big Puka's next activation, he activates Skinner, his Slaughter Fiend, who climbs directly to the top of the ruins. And for my next activation, I send Cloudneck, my Tallyman. He moves up forward his maximum allowance directly towards that fence right there, and then pretty much he'll be able to go forward during his next turn. My plan is actually having charge forward directly into the Skull Taker, the Lord of the Pit, because my Devout Demon's actually pretty decent, so I'm hoping that basically can help balance things out, and hopefully I can take on that Lord of the Pit. So the rest of the turn is dedicated to Big Puka's Cabal. So first of all, Shabriri, he actually moves up to the right-hand side as well, starting to head directly around the flank, getting ready to assault my right-hand flank. And for his 2 last activations, he activates Abdon, his leader demon, who moves forward directly into the middle of the ruins, so that way he can start dishing out some close combat attacks during the next turn. At the same time, his armored demon Abdiel, he basically attacks the Crystal Tower, netting himself another soul for his Cabal. So here's an overhead shot at the end of turn number 3. As you can see, a melee is starting to break out right there in the middle of the battlefield. It's where the main action is taking place, right in the middle between all those different ruins there at the same time. While that's occurring, of course, as you can see, my defensive plans are not exactly working out originally as I intended, because now my opponent Big Puka is starting to outflank me, especially in the right-hand flank as well. So that part is pretty crazy. Now the good part about this, of course, is that my attack score has gone up by 1 point, which is really great. Gives you a lot of buffs later on. At the same time, I currently have 2 soul dice, and Big Puka has 1. So with that, we go directly to the top of the next turn, and we roll off our D12 to see which of us will be going next. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 4, and for our initiative dice, I rolled horrifically for my initiative dice. For my dice, I rolled a 5, a 4, 2 2s, and 2 1s, which is absolutely horrible. Big Puka, on the other hand, you rolled 2 10s, a 9, and 2 8s, a 4, and a 3. So for the first half of this, he's pretty much dominating what's taking place here. And as you can see in this photo, for the most part, that's exactly what Big Puka decides to do. He decides to charge in his leader, Demon Abaddon, as well as activate his Skull Smasher, as well as Tentacle Beast. And as you see in this photo, they managed to put 7 wounds directly onto my corpulent demon Clisteret, so that part's kind of sad. He's about halfway dead. I mean, he does have 15 life, which is great, but he has no tolerance for being attacked like this all the time. At the same time, the Lord of the Pit's Skull Taker also unleashes his attack using a focus attack directly onto Morale, my armored demon, so managed to put 4 wounds on him. And at the same time, Sanguine also launches his attack with his focus attack directly onto Surgat, my Tentacle Beast, and managed to kill him and slaying him outright, which is absolutely horrible. And at the same time, at the end of the battle report, Surgat will need to roll up on the soul loss table to see exactly what happens to him. And of course, my opponent also gets another soul die. This one's actually ranked at a 2. So his next activation, Big Puka then activates Shabriri, his armored his spine demon, who charges directly into my Tallyman. When it's all said and done, matches but 4 wounds directly onto Cloudneck, which is absolutely horrible because he's only got 11 life, so he's about a third of the way dead, which is absolutely horrible on this part. So after that overwhelming first half of the turn with all the initiative dice, I get to go next. So I then activate Bakao, my Slaughter Fiend, and I use my Paragon's of Slaughter ability to use his Focus Combat directly into his Skull Smasher. Now granted, my 2-up bonus to my combat score is negated by 1 point because of the Grappling Arms ability that Skull Smasher has, but regardless of which, though, it was more than enough in order to put that guy back to the lower levels of hell, just ripping his head off with my Slaughter Fiend. So that part was kind of cool. Managed to slay that guy, and that guy will also roll up on the Soul Loss table at the end of the battle report. And this is where the strength of the Broker's Cabal actually comes in. The Broker's Cabal is all about generating souls, and the reason why is because souls are the currency within Hell, and that's exactly what this warband is designed to do. That's the reason why I picked it, because it's deal with money, which is actually kind of cool. So not only do I get a soul dice from actually killing Skull Smasher, which was a 4 for that soul dice that I got, I also rolled for my Tip the Scales ability, rolled a 5 on that one, so because I got another soul dice as well, this one was a 5 as well, and at the same time also give another +1 up to my tax ability for my Tallyman as well. So all my buffs are slowly building up now. So as you can see, this next photo pretty much ended up happening as an activate Clisterit, which was my Corpulent Demon. Managed to heal 2 wounds at the same time, so that part was kind of cool as well. I do try to attack Abaddon, but unfortunately though, I just kind of fail my attacks and not much really happens there. One thing I was able to do is to heal him up. Now if you're wondering what's going on with Sanguine up there in the top, we actually kind of made a mistake on this one. We forgot to, my buddy Big Kuko, it wasn't his mistake, he accidentally activated that fighter to have him charge and forward. He wasn't able to do anything to my Clisterit, my Corpulent Demon, so that part was kind of nice, but like I said before, we kind of made a mistake on that one. We are going to probably make some errors in this game for the very first few battle reports just because both of us are still learning the game. So for my next activation, I then activate my leader, Duke Cyrac. He goes charging directly into Skull Taker, and just like a boss, managed to put 5 wounds directly onto him as well. Sorry, not 5 wounds, 7 wounds, there we go. I was able to put 7 wounds on that guy, which is absolutely fantastic. Just outrolling just out of the box for Duke Cyrac, so that part was absolutely cool. However, what was not so cool is that my opponent decided to send in Skinner, his Slaughter Fiend. He charged directly into Duke Cyrac. Managed to put 2 wounds on my boss, so that part was kind of sad. Luckily for me, though, I do have what's known as Regenerating Soul, which means my next activation I do heal a wound. And it could have been worse. I actually should have suffered 3 damage, but because of my Infernal Armor, I actually subtract one of the damage that was done to me, so he takes 2 wounds. Like I said, my leader's kind of kitted out to be kind of cheesy in the sense that he's got a lot of life, he can regenerate his life, and he's also a little bit harder to kill. So then up next, Big Puka then activates Abdiel, his Lesser Demon, his Armor Demon, in order to attack the Crystal Tower again, harvesting another soul for his Cabal. And here's where we make another mistake. Well, not really so much another mistake, so much. Let me explain. What ended up happening is because Big Puka activates Sanguine on accident, you know, when he wasn't supposed to, we actually activated him twice. My buddy Big Puka said, hey, look, because I did that, why don't you go ahead and activate your Corpulent Demon a second time as well, just to kind of even things out. So if you're wondering why my Corpulent Demon is actually acting twice, that's the reason why. So the first thing it does, of course, he heals 2 more wounds. At the same time, managed to put, I think, 4 wounds directly onto Sanguine as well. So if you're wondering why he's going twice, that's why we did that, to just kind of balance things out just a little bit. Alright, so this photo is my pool of soul dice. Now if you notice, originally I had 4 orange soul dice originally. What I decided to do though is I decided to replace some of those rolls and use 3 of my soul dice. And the reason why is because I decided to use them for the attacks that was launched by Morale, my Armored Demon as well. And the reason why is because I was directing my attacks directly into the Lord of the Pit is what I decided to do for that one. And as you can see in this photo, Morale just put the hurt directly onto the Lord of Pit, manages to take him out all kinds, which is absolutely fantastic. Managed to kill that Devout Demon at the same time relieving some pressure on my right-hand flank. Now, pretty much how it works is that when you roll your dice, what you do is you take turns replacing each of your guys' dice with soul dice if you want to. My buddy Big Puka decided to keep the 2 soul dice that he had. He didn't feel comfortable with losing them. He didn't think I was going to actually do all that much damage until he realized how I was stacking them up for my attacks from Morale, which was able to really put advantage off his Lord of the Pit. So I think next time if we do that, Big Poop is going to start using his soul dice as well. And then finally, for my very last activation, activate my Tallyman Cloudneck, who launches his attacks directly into Shabriri. Unfortunately, though, I just kind of flub my attacks, only to put 2 wounds directly onto him as well. And that pretty much ends all of our activations. So here's an overhead shot at the end of turn number 4 for the battlefield. As you can see, I basically got 3 power dice, and the reason why I got those 3 power dice is because after I killed the Lord of the Pit, I managed to score 2 more from that one. I got 2 4s on that, so that part was pretty nice as well. And as you can see, things are not looking very good for me, though. I am generating soul dice, which is great, but I'm not defeating my opponent like I originally intended. I'm pretty much just being surrounded by the most part, just being taken apart bit by bit. I'm realizing now that the members of my Broker's Cabal can't really stand single combat against my opponent, so you know, we're still learning the game, how the mechanics work, but at the same time, though, I'm getting my butt handed to me by the Lords of the Pit. So that takes directly to the top of turn number 5, and once again we roll off for our activation dice. I only have 5d12 that I rolled. I rolled a 10, a 7, a 3, a 4, and a 2, which is absolutely horrific considering when you look at my buddy Big Puka. He rolled an 11, 3 10s, as well as a 4, so he'll be dominating most of the activations taking place in the first half of the battle. And as you can see in this fight right here, the first thing he does, of course, is it does a combination attack directly into my corpulent demon Clissereth. Managed to kill him, so I literally roll up on the Soul Loss table to see exactly what happens to him. At the same time, I then charge in my Slaughter Fiend Bakao, who managed to put 5 wounds directly onto Skinner using his charge attack, which is absolutely fantastic. So then Sanguine gets activated next. He charged directly into my General Duke Cyrak, and as you can see in this photo here, managed to put 4 wounds directly onto my General as well, so that part was kind of sad. So Duke Cyrak, he is sitting at now 9 wounds. He's only got, 4 more wounds before he dies because he only has 13 life, so that part was kind of rough. And to make matters worse, the Spine Demon Shabriri was actually managed to put the last few wounds directly onto Clown Neck. My Tallyman managed to kill that guy as well, so because of that, my Tallyman is now dead, and he will need to roll up on the Soul Loss table to see exactly what happens to him. And as you can see, it also brings up Big Puka's pool of soul dice up to 4 because he both killed my Corpulent Demon as well as my Tallyman. So for my next 2 activations, I then activate Dude Cyrak as well as Morale, my Armored Demon, and both those guys put their attacks directly into Sanguine, which is absolutely fantastic. Managed to slay that guy as well, so he'll need to roll up on the Soul Loss table to see exactly what happens to him. At the same time, I was able to net myself 2 soul dice. I got one for killing Sanguine, and I also got another one for Tip the Scale, so that part was kind of cool as well. And if you notice, my purple die for my tax value is now gone. The reason why is because my Tallyman got killed. So for my buddy Big Puka, for his last activation, he basically has Abdiel, his Armored Demon, to attack the Crystal Tower, absorbing the very last soul from that structure. And now that Duke Cyrak managed to kill Sanguine, it pretty much leaves up that last soul tower for me to finally use. I do have activate Morel, my Armored Demon. He attacks that last Crystal Tower and also nets the very last soul for the battlefield for my Cabal. And with that, that takes us directly to the end of turn number 5. As you can see, all the Crystal Towers have been claimed. My buddy Big Puka also netted himself 4 soul dice, and I also managed to net 5 soul dice for myself as well. And as you can see, a lot of my guys have been slaughtered in this one. So this was a very, very rough battle for me as well. And because this battle only lasts 5 turns, that takes directly to the end of the game with the Lords of Hell pulling a victory on this one because they managed to gather more souls from the Crystal Towers than I was able to. So this game was actually very interesting. We made some rules mistake, granted, because it's the very first time we actually played this game. So if we did make some rule mistakes, we do apologize for that. It's going to be a little bit, we're going to see a couple mistakes taking place in the very first few games at least, just because my friends and I are still learning how to play this game. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go directly to the post game and talk about each of our cabals because this battle report is now officially over. Alright, so let's talk about the post game real quick for the Ethereal Bank of Vykos. For soul loss, I actually had 4 guys get slain in this battle report. That was Clown Neck, my Tallyman, Occam, my Mafet, Clissereth, my Corpulent Demon, as well as Surgat, my Tentacle Beast. Now, Occam, Clissereth, as well as Surgat all got no effect, so they're all perfectly fine, make full recoveries. For Clown my Tallyman, though, he actually rolled up Chaos Power, which basically means I roll a D3 and get +1 to one of my stats. In this case, I gave him +1 to his movement characteristics, so now he's movement 5 now, which is actually kind of nice. At the same time, for my rewards, I managed to earn 33 souls from this scenario, and at the same time, when I roll on the rewards table, I actually got a Bloodstained Gauntlet and give it to Morale, which means basically whenever he rolls for defense, if he rolls a 6, my opponent actually takes damage, which makes sense because Armored Demons are designed to be defensive. I actually earned no titles during this battle report, and also I make no advancements as well, and that makes sense because this is our very first game that we actually done. For our recruitment expeditions, I decided to sink all of my souls into recruiting 2 more demons. I recruited a Corpulent Demon named Butcher, as well as a Spined Demon named Harrier, and I add them both to my Cabal as well. My current record now is at 0 wins as well as 1 loss. And finally, we're going to talk about the Stygian Legion, the Lords of Hell Cabal that my buddy Big Puka played and would also won the battle report on this one. So for his soul loss, he actually had 4 guys take injuries on this one, being slain. Skull Taker, his Lord of the Pit, as well as Sanguine, his Slaughter Fiend, both of them make full recoveries with no effects, so they're perfectly fine. However, for Cobalt, though, for his Mephet, though, originally he actually rolled Atrophy on this one, which means he actually loses 2 points to one of his stats. My friend Big Puka, though, decided to use one of his soul dice instead to re-roll that result. He got a weakened result instead, so because that Cobalt now is only movement 8, he lost 1 point from his movement characteristic for being weakened. Skull Smasher as well also rolled Atrophy as well, which means he's going to lose 2 points to him, and once again Big Puka used one of his soul dice in order to re-roll that result, and it got a no effect instead, so Skull Smasher makes a full recovery no problem. For his rewards, my buddy Big Puka earned 21 souls from this scenario, and he also learned the reward Essence of the Skirmisher for Skull Taker, which means now that whenever Skull Taker gets activated, he decides to do a running skirmish attack, he gets +3 to his movement characteristic, which is terrifying because Skull Taker is a flyer and he's also really good at close combat as well. As for titles and advancements, he doesn't get any of this time just because this is our very first game, and for his recruitment as for his expeditions, he recruited a new Slaughter Fiend named Crimson Chaos and added him directly to his roster. His current record now is at 1 win and 0 losses. So there you have it, guys. This is the very first battle report that we did for Radiant Hell battle reports from our series From Hell. This is a very fast and hard-hitting game and very, very aggressive. It's probably one of the most metal things that's out there. I mean, I can just imagine listening to the Doom soundtrack as you're playing this game because it's absolutely that hard-hitting. It's actually very, very fast and very fun as well. The rules are actually really, really good, and they're also very streamlined as well. And it's overall, my gaming group and I are having an absolute blast playing this. So that's good for this week, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest, greatest hobby news related to our channel. That's good for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.